You can't improve your strength and flexibility and reduce your risk of injury if your joints aren't mobile.
On the surface, it really seems obvious, but if you go back or if you look at your things you do in the gym or you do at yoga, we often have tendency to just go for this movement or go for more reps or go for the splits. And then this goal on the outside becomes too attractive and we are ignoring the basics. So, for example, if you want to lift more weight in a squat position or in a barbell squat, it's often so that we are not aware of where the body gets stuck. Even maybe it's in the feet or ankles or in the hips or in the spine or even in the shoulders. And we just push through to get more reps or more weight. And in this moment, we are ignoring the joints which are really mobile to do this full range of motion without getting blocked or injured or tense up.
Mm.
Uh, this is one thing I observe often. I observed in myself, and also when I trained for the splits, it was the same. I just ignored that my hip is not really mobile enough to get into the split position, and I just tried to push harder. And yeah, it doesn't end up that well.
Mm.
In a
Mm.
way, this is just a way to reflect on what we are doing and why we are doing it, and are we really listening to the body where it has its needs?
Mm. Mm. Yeah, there's the way I kind of look at it is a lot of strength movements, flexibility movements, they're movement patterns. As an example, we could look at squatting, deadlifting, various pushing movements and pulling movements for strengthening the body. They're all really effective and I love them. And there's great ways to do them and there's even better ways to do them in my experiences. But the thing with any of these movement patterns is depending on your habits, your level of joint mobility, you'll bring those habits and amplify them when you do a strengthening movement. It's like you bring all of your current qualities, your current level of structural integrity, your current level of joint stability around all of the joints, and you bring it to that pattern. And a pattern is like a sum of lots of parts of all of the different ways that the joints can move. And so if we're not aware of all of how the whole system is working, how the feet are stabilizing, the ankles, the knees, the hips, the spine, then if there is any imbalances that are habitual, then add load to it and then you amplify that imbalance. And so in the beginning, you might get stronger, but then what can happen is that imbalance can then build up and then turn into injuries. This happens with sports where you get good at certain patterns and then you get stuck in those patterns and the body gets hardwired into those patterns and then you stiffen up in those patterns and then you've got to move outside of them and you get injured. So when we're looking at improving joint mobility, we're kind of breaking down in a way where we're breaking down those patterns and looking at it joint by joint, or particularly in key areas of the body that support the joints. So this is a useful way of looking at it. And the same in like any yoga posture, for example. Again, they're just patterns. And so within that pattern is lots of different joint movements. And if there isn't stability and mobility around each of those joints, well, that's the area. Like you try and push the pattern, you try and push a posture, you could be like super mobile around your ankles, but super tight around your hips. And then the loading point goes into different areas of the body rather than evenly distributing it in different movements. And that's one of the key things that we want to look at. Once you improve all of the parts of the body and the way the joints move, then you can reconstruct it into patterns and it performs so much better. So that's kind of how joint mobility can start to then contribute to strength and flexibility because you get better stability in those movement patterns. You get better leverage from your biomechanics. And so then, like on a squat, you can you can get under the bar better. You can squat deeper, you've got more control over each of your joints so you can adjust and you don't have to be fixed into where a lot of people get stuck of like right and wrong cueing. And it's like, oh, I can't move my knees this way or hips that way or ankles that way because if I do, I haven't got the stability and then that leaves me vulnerable for injury. So what we're looking here is to build more resilience and more options with the ways that your joints can move in the patterns that you do in daily life and also in other training.